Hey guys, what's going on? James here. And before we get to the official interview, I want to say, firstly, both myself and Sam did this interview in part to raise awareness for Big Brother, Big Sister programs, not just in Minnesota, but all around the country. So I will have a link to a Big Brother, Big Sister program. Those types of programs help give mentorship to children in just all walks of life. So it is an important cause. If you guys want to go show support specifically to the program that I'm going to have posted in the comment section, that'd be greatly appreciated. Also, I will have links to Sam's all social medias, Twitter, Instagram, and everything else in between. So go give him a follow, go show him some support, and without further ado, hope you guys enjoy the interview. Hey guys, what's going on? James here, and in this video today, we're being joined by former Minnesota defensive lineman, current Tampa Bay Buccaneers defensive lineman, Sam Renner. Sam, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well. Sitting up here in Minneapolis, kind of anxious to get down to Tampa, and I'm excited for the offseason and training camp and whatnot. So
Nice, right on, man. So when will you be in Tampa here? In the next couple of weeks?
We're still in talks with the NFLPA and the owners. We start our OTAs next Monday, April 19th. Whether that be virtual or physical, we're still trying to figure it out.
Right.
But hopefully getting down to Tampa within the coming weeks.
Right on, man. Sounds good. We will dive into that in a little bit. But first, Sam, you just wrapped up your rookie season, but I want to go a little bit before that and then kind of, work up to the current day. So, let's look back first year time in Minnesota. So the 2019 season for you, man, I think a lot of people would agree, was kind of like your breakout year. You had 5 sacks, 8.5 tackles for loss. You played every game for Minnesota. First time they got 11 wins, I believe, as a team in over 100 years. So
yeah, I think it was first time ever with that. So.
Right. So, it was a great year for everybody involved. Kind of talk about what went into that breakout season. What were some of the factors that kind of contributed to the success you had that year and really put you on that NFL map?
Yep. So coming out of high school, was really a hockey player. Didn't do a ton with football. Ended up getting hurt my senior year. Didn't go to any camps, stuff like that. So wasn't getting recruited by colleges heavily. Ended up getting a preferred walk-on to Minnesota. Because my coach just asked me out of the blue, was like, hey, do you want to play college football? I think you got what it takes. And I was someone that I wanted to play at a big school, wanted to play in Power 5. So decided to walk on to Minnesota, played tight end in high school, transferred to the defensive end position, played a couple years under Jerry Kill, then PJ Flett comes in, continued to get bigger, faster, stronger, put on weight. And then my last 2 years I played. My junior year, I played every game, but I was more of a rotational player, didn't only started a couple games. And then my senior year, it was one of my buddies, actually roommate at the time, Blake Cashman. He was drafted by the Jets. That's kind of when I started thinking, I was like, dang, the NFL is a tangible thing. It's not something that only mythical beings can be in, but
right.
it's comprised of everyday people as well. So I really started to focus in terms of like, what's an NFL defensive tackle look like? And I was probably sitting around 270, 275 at the time. And I was like, well, first of all, I got to put on weight. Second of all, I got to put up stats in terms of making plays and stuff like that. And that offseason going into my senior year, I really just started to look at who are NFL defensive tackles, what makes them that way, and realize that that's my dream and I wanted to chase it. So going through that season, started out really hot. Being a first-time starter, you're starting to get buzz from agents, scouts, stuff like that. Had a really good year, started to realize that in the NFL, they want players that make plays. They don't just want people that control their gaps or play within the scheme of the defense, but you also have to kind of go above and beyond and do the next step. So started doing that, working harder in practice, stuff like that. Didn't get invited to the Combine, didn't get invited to the Senior Bowl. So in terms of the flying under the radar, like that kept going. Kind of pro day was supposed to be my big thing where I was able to at least kind of clock my weight in because a lot of NFL teams had me way underweight, and then kind of show my athleticism. Unfortunately, COVID happens. So obviously the whole country is going through the same thing at the same time. We go through the draft, don't get drafted, sign a deal with the Rams, virtual offseason, don't really get to know the coaches or the players, stuff like that. We go in through the team. They announce the roster's getting cut from 90 to 80, get let go from the Rams right then in training camp, and then really just spent the whole season training, bouncing around workout to workout, trying to find a team to, really settle with. And thankfully, after the Super Bowl, Tampa came calling, so I was pretty happy about it.
Right on. So this is something that kind of happened late in the process in Minnesota then, in terms of like, hey, I want to go do this. I want to go be an NFL player. Was there anybody specifically that you were studying where you kind of thought like, yeah, I think I can tailor my game to kind of what this guy's doing in the NFL?
Yes, totally. So looking at a lot of 5 techniques, kind of that, obviously the Buccaneers run a 3-4 defense, but like guys like Michael Brockers from the LA Rams. Right. Obviously, J.J. Watt is the person I think is amazing, and he's going to be in the Hall of Fame. He's going to go down as one of the best of all times. Am I exactly the type of player J.J. Watt is? No. But guys like Josh Morrow, he's played for the Raiders. Cameron Hayward for the Steelers. Guys like that, you really try to watch their film and study what makes them good. Because if you got the same body type and athletic profile as those guys, you can at least learn a lot more versus someone like me watching Aaron Donald, right? Aaron Donald's a lot shorter, a lot faster, and he's going to play at a completely different type of game than I am going to be, even though we might play the same position. So,
right on. I feel you. That's interesting to hear then. So kind of like guys like J.J. Watt, a lot of those guys who had similar builds to what you are.
Mm-hmm.
I got you. Right on. So now kind of speaking of Minnesota, now that you're with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 2 of your former teammates, Antoine Winfield Jr. and Tyler Johnson are both on the team as well. They were both drafted by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Have you got a chance to kind of reach out to them and say, hey guys, what's going on,
Yep. So I've talked with both Antoine and Tyler. Actually, I had to work out with Tampa down in October. I talked with them then. I think they were playing the Packers at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, they're great resources. They're great guys. Obviously, Antoine and Tyler have had great rookie years, and they're very excited for the future in Tampa, and trying to run it back for another one.
What does it mean to like you personally to kind of get that chance to play with them again and kind of get more acclimated to the team right now?
I think it's something you can think of as it's like a familiar person you have, right? And to really kind of usher you and guide you in terms of how to act like an NFL player, how to act like a Super Bowl champion and stuff like that, and really understand what goes into the process. The season's a long season, but it's the people who continue to get better, right? And as we saw last year, Tampa Bay didn't start out like the number 1 team in the world, but they slowly got better. Everything clicked at the end, and that's how it ended up winning. So
right on. Now, you did mention this, you did spend a little bit of time with the LA Rams for that 2020 season. And, you said it, big issue facing a lot of these younger guys. Me and you were the same age. So a big issue facing a lot of these, rookies, first-year guys, second-year guys even, was that, virtual offseason, not getting enough chances in time due to the problems with, the illness going on, the pandemic that was affecting everybody, and just getting reps, So you mentioned it a little bit, but did you run into any of those issues throughout the process with the Rams? And, like, how did that affect you personally, getting into the NFL?
Yeah, so, obviously when you come into an NFL team or program, you got to get the playbook down. That's the first thing and foremost. One of the biggest things to learn the playbook is not just to be doing it on a Zoom call or on a pen and paper, but to actually get out there on the field, do it with kind of live in terms of a walkthrough and stuff like that, and to get a feel of where you're supposed to be, when you're supposed to be there, and how you're supposed to do it. Unfortunately, with COVID, that didn't happen. So it does hinder the development of learning the playbook, as well as you're not with the guys all the time. You're not developing that chemistry. You're not developing those relationships. And that can be difficult, especially for obviously undrafted guys, but first year and second year guys, as you try to take the next step in your career.
Yeah, I feel you. I feel you completely. Because myself personally, I think the biggest thing was exactly what you just said. The actually physically being there. Because like you kind of get it, but you don't fully get it. It was a big issue, man. But kind of taking it a step further, after you had gotten released by the Rams, you were a free agent there for that entire 2020 season. And I think that, it was incredibly difficult, getting onto a team and then with the pandemic and the issues with that. But I would think that it would probably be even harder to be a free agent during this time period because there were so many hoops you'd have to jump through with like protocols and testing and making sure you're fully healthy and, all those different types of hoops, So kind of talk about that. How was the process of trying to work on finding another team? What hoops did you kind of have to go through, with all the restrictions on signings and things like that? Even among the practice squad, there were still issues. So what teams were you kind of considering throughout that process? And, what potential, problems or issues did you kind of see throughout that process as well?
Yeah. So kind of two big things to realize is that the protocol was if a team flew you out for a workout, you had to pass 5 COVID tests. So you'd have to be in a hotel sitting in there for 5 days. And then on the 6th day, you could go work out. And then after that, you saw multiple teams either got their games canceled or rescheduled, stuff like that. And that was teams' biggest fear, right? Because that's the worst thing in the NFL is you cancel games and then you lose money, ad revenue and stuff like that. Yeah. So kind of a good example or story would be I flew out to Seattle in September. So I sit in the Seattle hotel room for 5 days. In the very first day, I got a call from the New Orleans Saints saying they wanted me to work out for them. But I was like, I'm already in Seattle. I got to go through these 5 days and I'll come out to you next. And obviously things are time sensitive in the NFL. They were like, great. Just give us a call when you're done. If you get signed by him, okay. Or if you don't get signed by us, you can come. Anyway, I was like, great. Go to Seattle, do my workout, call New Orleans, don't get signed by Seattle. And then a hurricane comes through New Orleans. So then they're saying, all right, we can't fly you down now. It's been now 7 days. And we're like, we're just going to sign 2 other guys. Yeah. So that was something where I was like, dang, are you just because this COVID protocol happened, directly impacted my just ability to even try out for a team.
Right.
But it's been something where you'd fly out to a city, you would sit in a hotel room for 5 straight days. You weren't able to really get any workouts. I mean, I'd walk to local parks, stuff like that, just to get the blood flowing, right. And just do some mobility and sprints and stuff like that. Because these tryouts, they're really only about 20 minutes.
Right.
They're just teams trying to look at you in terms of like eye test and how you move and what your body comp is, stuff like that. So it's a very difficult time. But then when you look at COVID, teams would bring in, 5 to 10 guys normally a week. Yeah. And then towards that last half of the season, the whole league was on. And they were really only looking at guys that needed immediate replacements in terms of people who got hurt. And they weren't really bringing guys in just to look at them and put them on kind of like a short list if somebody did get hurt in the future. So kind of tightened it down, really just focused on getting the season off the ground, which they did. They played all their games. But it did make it harder for guys like me that are like, dang, I just want to get in the building. I haven't been in front of NFL scouts or execs yet. And ultimately, I just want to get back on the field and play. So right. That's kind of the difficultness of last season. But hopefully with the vaccine rollout and everything, this year is going to be a lot better.
Yeah. And, I do want to say, like, from the NFL's perspective or from the NFL standpoint, like, I do get it. Obviously we want everybody to be as safe as possible. Right. So, like, I'm not knocking that, because I do understand the process, but that sucks. You'd have to wait a week just to get 20 minutes in front of, some coaches and some of the executives, you know what I mean? And then you'd have to, that's tough, man. That really is tough. Like you said, hopefully with some of the new changes that are happening and things like that, hopefully stuff like that can change. But yeah, that makes it obviously incredibly more difficult. And like, I'll say this, like, that can take, it can be frustrating and, kind of take a mental strain on somebody. You know what I mean? Where you have to sit in a hotel room and just kind of twiddle your thumbs and just say, okay, I'm waiting. You know what I mean? But next, Sam, you joined the Tampa Bay Buccaneers just a few days after they won the Super Bowl. What went into that decision to join this team? And how has it been now that you've been with the team now for a couple of months?
Yep. So obviously I've been kind of talking with Tampa since my workout. Yeah. The feedback was, we like you. Most likely going to sign you to a futures deal. So just kind of hang by your phone. And obviously you guys keep winning the playoff games, then go to the Super Bowl. And I'm like, wow, well, hopefully they call. A couple days after the Super Bowl, they did end up calling. So signed with them. They're a great fit, 3-4 team. After that, reached out to strength coach, nutrition staff, kind of got oriented to the team, started learning the playbook, doing the workouts and meal prep and stuff like that. But obviously this is still the NFL offseason. So everybody just is taking a deep breath, winding down from a really long season. And then I'm here like, all right, let's go. Like I want to do something. But now we're kind of phasing back into it with OTA start.
Yeah. So now it's kind of been a waiting period for these past couple of months. It just kind of, okay, get that meal plan, get, the workouts that the team wants me to do, and then just kind of do my own thing until it's time to get for team stuff.
Yep.
Right on. All right. So Sam, next question here I have here is the Buccaneers have a lot of veterans along that defensive line. Ndamukong Suh, Vita Vea, Will Golston, Nacho, Ricky Nunez-Roches. They just re-signed Steve McClendon. Have you reached out to any of those guys, any of the ones that I named, for any type of help getting acclimated to the team? And if not those guys, who has kind of been a big help in getting you kind of more up to speed in terms of the defensive line, just the defense as a whole, and just the team atmosphere as a whole?
Yeah, haven't really reached out to any of those guys. I've obviously talked to Antoine,
right?
In terms of just getting a feel for the defense. Talked to Coach Casey Rogers, D-line coach, and then Coach Lowe, the assistant. Right. And they've both been great in terms of helping me understand the playbook and kind of the expectation of what it is to be a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. But it's going to be something where it is something, like you said, you got to meet them in person and you got to go through everything and kind of get a feel for the culture they have down there. And I'm looking forward to that.
Right on. All right, Sam, second to last question I have here is, when I originally wrote this, the NFLPA had not made a decision yet on the voluntary workouts and things like that. So I'm gonna twist this question a little bit, because the original question was, hey, team workouts are about to start here in a couple of weeks. How is it going to be going into that process? But now, obviously, things are changing with the overall offseason plan. So now that it's seemingly, going to be a little bit longer till team activities start up again, what is kind of going to be your plan in terms of making sure you're as ready as possible for, team activities and, hopefully preseason games and all the other things that are going on with the team?
Yep. So that's obviously, you're staying on Zoom calls with the team and stuff like that, just obviously trying to get the playbook. And then physically, you got to kind of be a professional. You got to still work out, still get your kind of reps on air, and then against other O-linemen that are actually up in Minneapolis. So that's stuff like that in terms of being ready. But it's something where you don't get that real feel of a full 11-on-11 kind of scrimmage in terms of that, unless you're able to host those OTAs. But hopefully the NFLPA works something out with the NFL.
In terms of private workouts, maybe with some guys from Minnesota, maybe with some guys from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, is that something that you might consider doing if it is allowed?
So, a couple guys, like Billy Turner's a guy I'm around all the time in terms of working out. He plays for the Packers.
Right.
And then a couple other practice squad guys for the Packers. So that's kind of been my big competitors in the offseason in terms of being able to actually go against O-linemen in terms of one-on-one reps.
Right.
But there hasn't been any real workouts or kind of anything of that nature, I would say.
Yeah.
But if there were, I would probably say I'm open. But I have not been kind of contacted for any of that. So,
I feel you. That's good too that you're getting, one-on-one reps with NFL O linemen that have been there for a couple of years. Like
yep,
that is extremely beneficial. But
definitely.
Sam, last question for you, man, is what should Bucs fans look to see for what Sam Renner is bringing to the team throughout the remainder of this offseason and this upcoming season as well?
Yeah, it's someone that is willing to help the team win in whatever way it was. I think my story's kind of been something where everybody's going to kind of classify me as kind of your lunch pail and a hard hat kind of blue collar person. Obviously, a walk on, converted from tight end to D line, now in defensive tackle. But it really is that. I mean, you got to be someone who is going to do whatever the team needs, whether that be in practice squad, active roster, a rotational role, a starting role. You got to figure out a way to, first of all, get there. And then second of all, how can you add value to the team and help the team get better? Because ultimately that's what people care about. And obviously it's a great team to be going to. So.
Right on. And Sam, I'm happy that we can tell that story, man. I'm, how you kind of came up with college, kind of saying, hey, senior year, I'm going to go do this. I want to go be in the NFL, converting from offense to defense. Not an easy thing to do, especially that late in the process, man, from high school to college, So I thank you for being on here, man. It was phenomenal to talk with you and overall get your thoughts on what's going on and, having you answer some questions for me, man.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
And guys, what do you think about everything that we talked about? Let us all know down in the comments section below. Thank you guys so much for watching. And as always, we will see you all in the next video or the next live stream. But until then, and as always, guys, goodbye for now and go Bucs.
Salute, go Bucs.
Thanks, bro. Have a good one, guys.